Hi guys, this is Eleanor from Revolution. I am here at Watches and Wonders with Arnaud Chastain, who is the directeur du studio de création d'horlogerie de Chanel. He's, in other words, the creative mind behind all of the jewelry and haute horlogerie timepieces of the house. And he's going to help us run through the entire showroom to see what's happening and what are the novelties. So here, when we look at these three creations, we have literally three different interpretation of what you can do with sapphire.
That's true, and but it's true that these three creations are in the capsule collection Interstellar, and it was really interesting for me to use this material that I already used before, but especially for this collection, I think it was interesting for me to use them. Here on the first creation, this is the Premiere caliber 2.1, and it was interesting that to have all the case in transparent sapphire. And of course to have the caliber on the first way on this creation. Here it's
a new J12. When you think about the creation of the J12,
something like 2 years ago, you know, in a full transparent sapphire using, and on that one, I mean, in the Interstellar concept, I really wanted to have that kind of structure like Frozen, you know, like in my imagination, that's the thing you can find, you know, on a planet. I don't know where, but it was maybe something I was dreaming. And thanks to the manufacturer, we find the solution to have this finishing that I really wanted to mix too with the diamond baguette, you know, that you have in the center of the bracelet.
As indexes.
Yes, and I really like, you know, the harmony between these two materials. And it's true that it was very complex for them to do that, because it's not a simple, I can explain, it's not like when you do that, you know, I do that sometime on the black ceramic, and so for that they have to do this finishing all by handmade. And so it takes a lot of time, and yeah.
And how do you, especially when you look at the J12, when you think about it, it's a standalone piece. You think J12, you don't even need to add by Chanel, because it has such a strong identity. With the creative mind that you have, and all the different themes from Chanel and the strong DNA of Gabrielle, the different theme here this year, we're talking about Interstellar. We have the lion. There's so many different things. How do you manage to keep on evolving the decoration, the references on the movement of that specific watch, the J12?
Yeah, but you know, the J12, to introduce about your question, I have really a special relation to this watch.
Really?
You know? Yeah, of course. I think it's one of the watches that really inspired me since a long time, you know, maybe before I started working for Chanel. And
why is that?
I don't know. I remember, you know, when the first time I discovered this watch, I was something like 20 years old. I was just finished my school of design, and I remember a friend of mine sent me, they knew that I was fascinated about the brand, about Chanel, and they sent me, Arnaud, you will see in the newspaper, you will discover a new creation of Chanel. And of course, I made this watch on the commercial campaign, you know, the first time, and I had a crush at the first time, because I found it was maybe different than what I've seen before in the watch world, and it's kind of authority, you know, I mean, about the design of this creation.
But is that true that the J12 was originally designed for men and it became a worldwide success for women?
But, you know, I think it was more, how can I say, I think the word is maybe strong, but I think it was more an obsession, you know. Jacques Ellul, when he designed this watch, it was an obsession in of itself, and maybe he created this watch for himself first. And
now you're owning it on your own, and you're making so many interpretations
you know, when I started working for Chanel, I knew that J12 became my responsibility, you know, and it was like a wow.
And you've been doing a great job at it.
Yeah, you know, too, in 2019, when I decided to rework maybe a little bit the design of this watch, for me it was maybe one of the more complex exercises I had to do, and because I think it's more difficult, you know, to rework on the design line, the J12, instead of starting from scratch. You know, by example, for me it's really more easy to design a watch like the Piquet Gris, we will see after, than to work on a design that you have a big respect. And it's true that my process of creation for
the J12 collection?
Yeah, in 2019. It was more like a surgeon, I think, than
piece by piece and reference by reference.
And I think humility in that kind of exercise is your best friend, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, you've been doing quite a remarkable job simply because when you take one product and all the interpretation we've done. If we look at the spatiotemporal, which is what you're releasing this year, you've introduced the duality between black and white, which are the two colors that really embody the DNA of the J12 and the brand, and Chanel, of course. How did you think of cutting things as if it was just like different parts stitched all together, but in some really harmonious way and aesthetic one?
But for that too, of course, you know, between the creative dream and the reality, you know, sometimes you have
a big gap.
Yeah, a big gap. And for that too, thanks to the guy who was with me, I mean the manufacturer, you know, all the technician guy I work with, who I know for them that it's a real challenge, you know, to find the kind of solution, because of course, you know, Chanel always wants the best quality for all its products, you know. It's nice to dream, it's nice to have ideas, you know, creative ideas.
So you bring the creative ideas to the decoration and the improvements of the movements depending on the watch that you're designing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's true that, by example, when we spoke about the J12, you know, by example, with the relation of the J12, and I think this creation can be too an illustration of that. It's, you know, J12, I think she's 20 for more than 20 years old now, and I think it's interesting for me to play with the J12, maybe like a muse. And
so you have infinite possibilities of things,
and I think J12 is really a source of inspiration with never stops for me. So
it's your baby.
Yes,
so tell us about the baby right here, which is, I mean, the cybernetic. I mean, if you think about Interstellar this year, 2023, all your creations are as if we're pushed 50 years from today of what the J12 can be.
Yeah.
And the interpretation of it, we have the pixelized, the cyber world, we're at 3.0, but will be 7.0 by then. Mm-hmm. How did you think of having the round on the side and the whole like square edgy on the other side?
You know, that was, of course, the Interstellar collection born with the idea that, as you know, Gabrielle Chanel created in 1932 an amazing collection that the name is Bijoux de Diamant.
Bijoux de Diamant.
That's where she was inspired about the comet, you know, the
galactic elements of what's happening in the sky.
When I love this collection, and of course today we have certain pieces at the Patrimony. And when I saw this collection, I said, okay, I really want to, of course, to extract this story, but maybe if this collection was created in 1932, I want to go in the future, maybe in 1932, you know, and that's why on the collection sometimes you can find maybe on the other piece creation where you have the stars with a.
We have it,
and on this I wanted something more close from the science fiction. By example, imaginary I can have about the movie or of science fiction, and I like this idea of cybernetic, you know, a world to a world.
And here, plus, you have the matte finish and you have the brilliant finish, which is a new interpretation that last year in I think it was the number 5 box that you had all the different ways of putting Chanel and the logo and everything on the watch.
Exactly. And it's true that I really like about the finishing, by example, the mix between the matte ceramic and diamond. I found the combination is always very cool for the diamond, by example. You know?
And where do you get that inspiration?
But you know, it's always a question everybody wants to know. When you're a designer, all time people ask you,
where's the inspiration? It's true, you can run by something and all of a sudden it creates your mind. You never know.
I never decide when I wake up in the morning to say, okay, this morning I will be inspired.
No, of course, that never works.
No. I think it's, you know, when you're creator, you're like a sponge. I think you sponge the world all around you, and
you use the outside elements to make something off of it.
And of course, after that, it's true that the brand of Chanel is very inspiring. You know, so
that's true.
After 10 years, I hope I will have enough time to do all the things that
and
Chanel
keeping the DNA with the black and white. It's not like you can go on a full rainbow. You've introduced the rubies with a couple of red here and there, but I mean, it's quite fascinating. And can you now explain to me the whole idea of this big clock, which is one of the masterpieces of the show.
Yeah, this is another kind of exercise I like to do, and it's true that this year in this collection I really wanted to do that kind of object and that kind of clock. When I work on that kind of project, it's by example for this creation I work with the manufacturer L'Épée.
Yes, of course.
Was really for me one of the best manufacturer that we can work with. I mean, for the movement, and I love the collaboration with them because they know the exigence of the house, and that we, of course, we use their savoir-faire, but it's very important for them to rework on the design of the
and to adapt. What are the key features? Because here, I mean, when you know the history of Chanel, you have the Leo. I mean, we have the lion, which is Chanel's astrological sign.
It's always connected to this graphic spirit of the stars.
Spirit of the stars. The comet, which is a very famous Chanel star, and all the different details, element with the spheral, faceted diamond, got the bazooka,
the constellation that you can find, and we're allowed to read the minute, you know. And
so how do you read the time on it? Here, you've got the minutes.
Yeah, the comet, it's to read the hour.
So here it's 5.
Yes.
5.
Exactly.
It's 5 o'clock and 5 minutes.
Exactly.
Do we have the day and night complication, or no?
Here, no.
And it's a unique piece, obviously, that you're unveiling at the fair, or will it be able to make?
Piece. I think it's. You mean about the production?
Yeah.
It's 5 pieces.
5 pieces.
Yeah.
So 5 lucky owners will have them wherever they want. So now that we've covered the haute horlogerie part with obviously the masterpiece, which is the clock designed by L'Épée, the bouton has been part of the collection for a while. I've heard that you've been collecting buttons since a very young age.
Exactly.
Why did you start to do this?
You know, I think I have a fascination for the button in Chanel because, you know, Gabrielle Chanel give to this object with the first function, you know, it's just to close a jacket. She gives to the button another dimension, because with Gabrielle Chanel the button became a jewel, but a functional jewel, you know. Gabrielle Chanel always said never button without a hole, you know, on the jacket. So, and it's true that you have so many buttons, you know, since the creation, and I think it's a really fantastic object that I love since a long time. As you know, I collect old Chanel button.
I do know.
Before I start working for Chanel, and it was really one of my obsessions when I started working for Chanel to one day design a button watch, and so.
And you've done such an amazing job at it. It's just so beautiful.
Thank you.
And I mean, here you've also added innovative, creative, and also you've pushed the boundaries. For example, here when we have the ceramic, here we have a treatment put on solid gold, which makes this unique piece and this this one a little more easy to wear and affordable, but yet there's so many intricate details in the way you design those pieces.
And the thing with this racing and this interpretation of the button is that maybe you know that one of the first button Gabrielle Chanel designed was with the head of lion on the button.
Yeah, but she was obsessed with lion. It was her animal.
Yeah. But it was when she started to create button, you know, more how can I explain, more jewelry button. The lion was
her signature and the details that would make us here. We're opening it and then it unveils a dial.
And on this watch, I really wanted to have, of course, you have the button here with yellow, gold, and diamond, and the lion is engraved on and set on onyx element, and the bracelet is in titanium. And
so extremely light.
Yeah, light, and thanks to the manufacturer too, because they found a solution to have a black titanium.
It almost looked like a lacquered.
No,
visually, the rendering is quite amazing. But also, speaking of details and speaking of craftsmanship, and what I would call a prowess is the Piqué Gris collection, which you've recently launched. It is I guess maybe, and I'm not the only one who says it, one of the most beautiful, creative, feminine jewelry watch exercise that ever been done in contemporary watch. I mean, can you explain, because I can talk about it for hours for the Pic Aiguille collection, but how do you actually translate the Pic Aiguille?
You know, Pic Aiguille, it was, I was explaining you my story of the button watch, you know, and Pic Aiguille was another obsession. Sorry, obsession is strong, but it's sort of in intuition, you have that kind of feeling, you know. And I remember, you know, when I was lucky sometime to be able to discover, you know, the workshop Ricambeau, where you have the atelier de couture. And
all the couturières working on the fabrics
when they're working,
and the dresses.
I was very impressed when I went there to see all the couturières or the couturiers who work in the workshop wearing this beautiful element on the wrist. And I was always very impressed about that, because I found that, you know, normally they're very white dress, you know, and this amazing jewel on the wrist, of course, was a tool. Huh?
Yeah, it was clipped. It's the bracelet that you clip on the wrist, where they keep all the needles and they can work on it.
Yeah, because first it's a real tool that was created for them to help them to work better, you know, in their work. And I think the first time I was impressed about this style signature that you can have on the wrist. And
so you transform a working tool into a beautiful object that will become precious and necessary at the same time. And so you've done 5 interpretations of it, working on an oversized dial, which is an XXL of 55 millimeter, where you're telling a story and you're using each craftsmanship that Chanel has been renowned for years.
Yes.
I wouldn't say my favorite is this one.
Yeah.
Well, also, when you look at the pair of scissors that made of gold, is that true that it takes 12 hours to actually create this pair of scissors?
Yeah. And it's true that it's a long story, you know, this creation, because of course you have the what I explained you know, the creation and the inspiration about what I saw in the atelier, and after it's true that it was important to find the good design and the reinterpretation of this tool in a watch or in a jewel.
And it was very bold to do it that way with the dome sapphire glass.
But one thing who impressed me a lot too was that you know, about the structure of this object, you know. I mean, about the tool, you know, the accroche of the bracelet is really on the, how do you say in English, you know, on the back.
The back side of the
case.
dial.
So it means that it doesn't matter the size of your wrist.
Just gonna stay.
It works on the different size. You can have a very small wrist or a big wrist. It works all the time. So it was really one of the code of the tool that I really wanted to keep on this.
So on a proportion level, it would fit all basically.
And I love when I see this watch on a very small wrist, because you know, when you wear it, you don't see the bracelet and you just feel to have an impact structure on the wrist. So, and in second time, it's true that one time the architecture of this creation was done. Of course, I quickly understood that I have a big size of expression, you know, I mean, about the dial. And at this time, I think I really wanted to have a story of couture, of course, because it's where this creation is born, in the workshop I'm in, the inspiration.
Yeah,
and it's true that I really wanted to illustrate the different métiers, very important métiers for the Chanel brand. And of course, here you can find the couture, here the work of the dentelle.
The lace, the tweed?
Yes,
and the
tweed,
chain.
but maybe more you know, in Chanel, we say les paruriers. By example, like the savoir-faire of Desrues and others, with something very important in Chanel. Here, of course, the work of
the matelassé.
Yes, the matelassé, but the leather work, you know. And here, maybe something more abstract about the
snow-set,
the broderie.
The broderie, yeah. And you've enhanced, like, with a black treatment on the sub-dial in order to get the brilliance of the diamonds just shine at the top, so we don't see the metal.
Exactly. And that was important for me to have that finishing, because I feel like it's the diamonds are embroidered on black satin, you know, and.
So I was wondering, because when you look at these pieces, obviously it's hard to talk and integrate a mechanical movement of what we call the haute horlogerie. Do that even, I mean, frustrate would be a big word, but when you design a watch and you go deep into the sphere of the creation, does it really matter, or how does it matter that you get to use a quartz versus an actual mechanical movement?
But you know, I think it's not my first obsession. You know, in the first time, I think for me, of course, as you know, Chanel is Chanel watches, and we have style is very important for them, and of course, we have always a story of style of our creation. But I mean, the style of the woman who will wear the watch, and it's true that. We saw creation with horlogerie mechanical movement on the other side, with this collection of these 5 calibers that we have today in the collection. But after, I think it depends. The first word of my story is about style, and after I use the movement of the caliber.
Work around.
Yeah, I think was interesting for the creation, but I mean the movement is at the service of the creation, and of course in Piquet Gris I choose to use a quartz movement, and because
the purpose was the story to tell in the dial, having this large expression of things, the same way that you've done it in different ways with the J12, the Interstellar collection.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your insights, and it was a great conversation. I'm really glad we did it.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.